I'm not just gonna stand here and wait. I wanna just decide what is to be my fate. Alone all by myself, I'm not just gonna stay here and wait.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. This is our weekly flashback show where I jumbled together this week's videos in case you've missed the news. Please remember that this is a compilation of videos from throughout the week. That means you're going to see stuff you probably already saw in styles that, well, are old style because we changed our style significantly through the week. I just didn't go back through it, and yeah, it doesn't mean we're regressing. It means it's the old stuff. And Verbo, don't let me get through my thing before you IM me, please. Thank you, because I'm totally distracted right now. Yeah, it doesn't mean we're regressing. It means it's the old stuff we did before we changed the style, and I didn't have time to go back and update all the old stuff. So don't panic. Also, if you have suggestions for the show, please don't put them in the side chat. I'll never see them. Go to our Discord and put them where I'm about to put them. Right here in this link, right here on our beautiful Discord server. Things scroll, I don't see them. Days like today when I'm really sedated on cold pills, to make sure I'm halfway human, I'm really not going to see them. Likewise, if you're coming in with the fun sock account, please tell Verbo or myself in advance so there's no chance you get banned or timed out or whatever. I don't have a scorecard. I don't know who's what under what name. So if I see coded friend or some variation of someone who hates me, I'm probably going to time them out because that's just me. So with that, on to the week that was. Texas sheepdog arrested for CP possession. Jack Texas sheepdog Miller was arrested for allegedly possessing CP on Friday after police enforced an arrest warrant for the YouTuber. Miller had been arrested in March for charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, criminal trespass, and unlawful carry of a weapon. According to a CBS KENS 5 report, police seized his electronic devices in a raid of his home, and in May, forensic analysis of his computer turned up 6 images involving CP. The YouTuber was charged with possession or promotion of CP under the age of 10 years old, a second-degree felony. He reportedly has a $100,000 bond for the charges. According to YouTuber Merb, Miller was a supporter of Earl David Warden, who is currently appealing a 20-year sentence he received after being found guilty of deeds with his own daughter. Miller was known for his Texas sheepdog persona, a ruthless critic of police who, on at least one occasion, disrobed to his underwear to protest having to go through a security checkpoint in a public building. This is a developing story. DeCastro blames plumbing issues for cell transfer. Friday's brief update from Jose Chili DeCastro, posted on Saturday, brought an announcement from the imprisoned YouTuber that he was moved to a new housing unit due to plumbing issues. DeCastro stated that he had been moved from a minimum barracks to a medium minimum security barracks this week as there were plumbing issues in his old barracks that were being worked on. The YouTuber indicated that he was among the first 5 men in the old unit to be transferred to the new unit, and he was not happy about the move, as those housed in the new unit were much louder than in those who were housed in his previous unit. Describing the medium minimum barracks as having more gangbangers than those with mental health issues, DeCastro seemed concerned about his new cellmates and the new limits on free time in the new barracks. De Castro complained loudly that inmates only have 6 hours of free time in the medium minimum barracks rather than 8 hours from the old housing unit, and that he was unhappy about needing to be confined to his bunk for an expanded period each day. While no plumbing issues at the facility have been featured in the local newspapers, the Clark County Detention Center does have a history of issues with sewage that may be responsible for the move. Back in February of 2019, the facility made headlines for a sewage spill that interrupted operations for half a day and impacted the inmate booking area, property room, employee break room, and pre-trial services area. There have been no published reports of any new or significant issues since the 2019 incident, but we will update our reporting should updates come in. A second day of goose eggs for GoFundMe pages. There are 69 days left until Jose Chili de Castro is scheduled to be released from the Clark County, Nevada Detention Center. As the clock winds down, de Castro's influence is probably at the lowest point it has been since he started the campaign to end Terry versus Ohio. Last week was a particularly bad week for the YouTuber. After a couple of days where things seemed to turn around and he was getting actual GoFundMe donations from promoting his campaigns, things fell off the proverbial cliff with donations. Brian Here's the Deal Young betrayed DeCastro last week by siding with Paul Unslaved. The pair's comments that DeCastro was whining too much about his jail sentence and needed to man up and do his time was a blow to the YouTuber. DeCastro didn't do himself any new favors in his Friday address. He admitted that he had been previously locked down in a minimum security area of the detention center. Then he loudly complained about free time reduction in the medium minimum security area that he was now assigned to. Even DeCastro's staunchest supporter, attorney Michael Eline, bumbled his way through the week. Eline is now DeCastro's permanent live stream replacement now that Brian Young has apparently stopped interacting with DeCastro's YouTube channel. Eline got into a fight with Merb and now faces at least the start of a claim of stolen valor as his DD-214 documents are being questioned. Adding to Eline's simple lack of knowledge of areas of the law he should be versed in, and, well, Eline seems to be on his way to driving himself into oblivion and outside of DeCastro's influence. As it stands, there are serious questions about what will be left of DeCastro's YouTube empire when he gets out of jail in those 69 days. Saturday was another day of goose eggs for his campaigns. 69 more days of goose eggs, and there won't be an empire to come back to. Chile de Castro gets new Maryland court date. PDocs of the public documents of Jose Chile de Castro brought news on Sunday of updates to de Castro's pending charges in Maryland. The charges stemmed from several incidents where de Castro made statements to his followers on live streams earlier in the year where he is accused of doxing former associate Colin Project Constitution Campbell. De Castro allegedly told his followers to directly harass Campbell at his home and at his father's residence, resulting in charges being filed by Campbell. A previous court hearing essentially tabled the charges until further notice because De Castro did not show for that scheduled hearing. De Castro did not make it to the hearing because he was in custody of the Clark County Detention Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. New filings in the case saw a motion to quash the previous summons and a new summons issued for De Castro. A new trial for De Castro has been scheduled for June 17, 2024. Campbell has previously been granted a 6-month peace order preventing contact by DeCastro, which expires in September of this year. Commentary: Grant Smith Ellis's really horrible month continues. As detailed on his Twitter feed, Grant Smith Ellis is having another really bad week to an already bad month in a year that would have made anyone else pack up and move elsewhere. Smith Ellis was already embroiled in controversy after being easily manipulated by Aidan Turtleboy Kearney into receiving a protection order taken out by a Turtleboy follower. The incident was over standing in line for access to the Karen Reed case. The woman threw his chair, he may have pushed her back, but it was 2-on-1 in a kindergarten fight. Smith Ellis must wear the tag of woman beater forever, as the turtle god, who has a protection order for the exact same thing, has deemed him unworthy of line sitting in a case involving the immortal deity Karen Reed. This is where any sane person would have walked away. Seriously, Turtle Boy is at the top of his turtle game, showing that he was just manipulative enough to get the chair policy thrown out so he could get his face on the internet every day as they escort him out of the courtroom when a witness he's accused of intimidating comes in to testify. Instead of retreating, Smith Ellis launched into a righteous attack on Kate Peter? Kate Peter is a lot of things. She, too, is facing witness intimidation charges against Turtle Boy, of all people, in an almost non-related matter. She promotes the downtrodden and gets a Mother Teresa meets Howard Stern circa 1997 vibe at times, but she sees herself as a good broad and probably is. She's also a vicious fighter who, exactly 2 years ago today, allegedly forced poor Jose Chile de Castro into a near-death panic as she mauled him with her boob multiple times at a Memorial Day parade where he was stopping short for unknown reasons. The point being, you don't mess with Kate, especially on her home turf. If you thought Turtle Boy was bad, having Turtle Boy's people and Kate's people come at you at once would make you run away from the internet and promise a Welsh solicitor would be hand-delivering a certified letter to your alleged victims next Tuesday if he wasn't lost in a snowstorm. Grant hit Kate with charges that she didn't properly account for funds from a fundraiser for Turtle Boy's ex-girlfriend. Kate hit back that Grant was a man-child who was trying to sleep with the ex-girlfriend and jealous of Kate's friendship with her. Grant says the feds are coming in to investigate Kate. Kate says that Grant is a manipulative drama queen who knows less about how to keep a girl than Turtle Boy does. Kindergarten has evolved into a 10th grade drama. At this point, Grant's only real options are either to leave reporting of this story alone and focus on repairing his reputation, or continue the fight on all sides with Turtle Boy and Kate and go down in a blaze of dishonor. After this, regardless of outcome, nobody in the Canton area will like him, and he won't be the queen of the winter ball anytime soon. We'll continue to follow this drama in Canton as it plays out in real time. Will CPU Tom throw a chair? Will more ex-girlfriends of Turtle Boy line up and totally not date Grant? Will Kate Peter go on a boob-mashing rampage? Tune in tomorrow, kids, as these are the days of our lives. Jeremiah Payne promises to sue everyone. Jeremiah Payne posted a new video on Saturday of a confrontation he had with a worker at a Best Western Plus residency in Tennessee. The worker accused the Payne family of stealing silverware as Payne attempted to check out of the hotel. The footage started with a worker of the hotel informing Payne and his family of the missing silverware as Jeremiah screamed that he was suing the racist worker. Payne was upset at the worker for making the accusation of theft and allegedly calling his wife Samantha a drug addict. After a jump cut, Payne opened a silverware drawer in the kitchen of a room at the hotel and proclaimed that all the missing silverware was in place and accounted for. A second jump cut was followed by Samantha Payne confronting the worker about calling her a drug addict. Jeremiah Payne went into his standard promise that the worker would be fired by this time tomorrow and the hotel would be famous. He again promised a lawsuit as he led his family out of the building while challenging the worker to a fight. After moving his possessions to a street corner, Payne instructed his fans to call corporate to have the man fired. Payne later explained that they had to leave the hotel because his boss, Brandon Montgomery from Middle Tennessee Firewood, declined to continue to support Payne after an on-the-job injury left Payne unable to work for the last 2 weeks. The YouTuber accused Montgomery of running over his foot with a 600-pound cart, leaving him unable to work. He then claimed that after 2 weeks of giving Payne his full paycheck, he was reducing his support to paying for Payne's hotel room and food for his family. Payne objected to the reduction in pay and was fired, leaving his family homeless. Immediately announcing a new lawsuit against Montgomery, Payne said that he had no idea what he was going to do as he was now homeless with his 6-year-old daughter and 70-year-old mother. Payne ended by directing his fans to his Cash App and PayPal to make donations to help him find a new place to stay. Long Island Audits gets rare Sunday win. Oh no, come on. Just when I thought it was safe to retire this segment, Sean Paul, Long Island Audit Rias, came roaring back into the competition with a decisive victory on Sunday. Contributions to Long Island Audits support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption Fund drew a whopping $20 in donations on Sunday, outpacing his nearest competitor by $10. Again, there's no reasoning for the single donation he received on Sunday. It disproves the theory that I just used this segment to pad out the paper or newscast, because on really light days I need the time or I need pages. And yeah, those who think I just insert a Phantom editorial in this, well, okay, I do. I insert a Phantom editorial from time to pad out this stupid segment. Sunday had an actual competition. Whoop-de-doo! We saw Long Island Audit taking the lead from Jose Maria Chili de Castro in dramatic fashion. They almost had a real fight with real competition, and the win was gained at the last minute, with Long Island Audit pulling ahead and making de Castro cry in his jail cell or something. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Otherwise, I'm ditching this daily story and just going to reruns of Jeremiah Payne's freaking sex scandals. You've been warned. You've been warned. Flashback to May 27th, 2023. Regan Benson gets wholly hugged in Inglewood. The Inglewood Civic Center was graced by the presence of homeless activist and First Amendment auditor Regan Benson, who paid the facility a visit for the second straight day in a row. Benson, 50, traveled to the Civic Center to pick up a flash drive containing yesterday's court hearing featuring her friend Shannon Moore, who settled a long outstanding charge against her at the hearing by taking a plea deal. As part of the plea deal, according to Ms. Benson, Moore must stay away from the dumpster at the Inglewood Civic Center for the next 6 months. After picking up the drive, Benson encountered a homeless couple who had come inside from the storm that was brewing outside. The couple inquired about obtaining a tarp to provide shelter from the storm, and Benson replied that she would provide them with Dollar Tree gift cards if they'd simply accompany her to her car. Before leaving for the car, Benson saw the security guard she named as Alex sitting at the security kiosk. Benson walked over to Alex and began to question him about a gesture he made to her the previous day, where he blew a kiss in her direction before entering a secured area. Benson claimed that Alex had sexually harassed her and that the next time he makes a gesture like that towards her, she will call Allied Security to report the security guard. Alex stopped and made it clear that he made the gesture to her camera and stated that it was an innocent gesture. After listening to Alex's response and his use of her first name, Benson began to berate him, demanding that he call her Mrs. Benson and leveling charges at him that he wished to fight her or her children outside of uniform. Completing her rant, Benson declared that Alex was lucky she was not his mother, to which Alex completely agreed with the statement before walking into the secure private area. Turning her attention to the homeless couple, who were now cowering away from Benson, Benson offered to take them to her car to retrieve the gift cards. As the trio walked to Benson's car, the homeless woman began a long and complicated story about sin and salvation that culminated in an encounter with her brother, who she claimed was demonically possessed and not acting himself. The woman described that she channeled the power of Jesus. De Castro breaks down over medium security move. Jose Chile de Castro's May 26th address, released to his YouTube channel on May 27th, focused on the YouTuber's increasing frustration as he comes to terms with being moved from a minimum security dorm to a medium minimum security dorm. De Castro complained loudly about his new accommodations, explaining that the minimum security dorm was shut down last week and the remaining 40 inmates were distributed throughout the Clark County, Nevada detention center and landing De Castro in the medium minimum security area. The YouTuber blasted the inmates housed in the medium minimum security dorm as gangbangers and thugs who had segregated the housing unit by race. He expressed his longing to go back to the minimum area as that unit was made up of nice and quiet homeless people and the mentally ill, who would let him go about his business in peace. Critics have been quick to point out that De Castro's change in scenery coincides with criticism of De Castro for overstating the hardships he faced in the minimum security area. Fellow YouTubers Brian Here's the Deal Young and Paul on Slave mercilessly mocked De Castro last week for not serving his time like a man and for spending more time whining about his circumstances than actually coming to terms with what put him in jail in the first place. De Castro's response that he is now in danger because of being moved to a medium minimum facility has done the YouTuber no favors, as his dramatic accounts of having to watch his back and fear of repercussions for interacting with other inmates are in the same stories he told in his now beloved minimum area. Again blaming Justice of the Peace and Zimmerman for his predicament, De Castro claimed that if any harm befell him while in the medium minimum area, his fans should directly blame Zimmerman. He then called for sweeping prison reform, with a bill banning judges who are married to police officers from handling criminal cases involving police officers, again wrongly stating that Justice of the Peace Zimmerman had been married to a police officer. Furthermore, De Castro then proposed sentencing guidelines that would limit the maximum time a judge could sentence a prisoner to the average sentence they had given for the past 10 cases involving the same crimes. He also called for a jury/jail panel, which would have the ability to override jail terms for any prisoners based on fairness of sentencing. De Castro ended his 8-minute speech by reminding his fans that it would be futile to petition Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo, as Lombardo is an ex-police officer and any sort of pardon wouldn't even start processing until well after De Castro was released from jail. The YouTuber told his fans to focus on Justice of the Peace Zimmerman, as she alone would atone for his time in jail. Floyd Wallace catfished in Puerto Plata? What happens when a catfisher gets catfished? Floyd Wallace apparently found out earlier in the month as a released video on his foreign-only channel details his encounter with a girl he claimed wasn't who he thought she was. The video started with Floyd posing with two servers at a restaurant in the Dominican Republic. Floyd explained that he approached the women using his Terry persona and thought he had arranged a date with the girl on the left. When he met the girl at a local mall, she appeared to have features similar to the woman he thought he had asked out, but Wallace ultimately concluded it was not the same woman. Wallace said he was increasingly frustrated as the woman seemed uninterested in him during their date and had no interest in eating a meal together. After his date said goodbye, Wallace declared that he had been catfished, as the woman clearly was not the same as the person he briefly interacted with and asked on a date. The YouTuber then claimed that dating in the Dominican Republic was pay to play and might not be for him before taking a motorcycle taxi back to his Airbnb. He discouraged other members of the Mr. Passport Bro movement from dating in the country unless they were prepared to pay for the services of their dates. While Wallace blamed catfishing for his problems, he too was using a fake persona and story to lure women into dates with him. His complete lack of knowledge of anything more than a few phrases in Spanish hinders his ability to communicate with his dates, leaving those who don't speak English uneasy with him, and more often than not results in the dates making a quick exit. In the end, catfishing was not to blame for the date failing. It was more about Wallace disrespecting his date, acting strangely, and making no effort to communicate or connect with the date than the woman catfishing him as the reason why the date did not work out. Gaetini appears on Twisted Tragedies. After a weekend where Kate Peter and Grant Smith Ellis embarked on Twitter war over her friendship, former girlfriend to Aiden Turtleboy Kearney, Lindsay Gaetini, ditched both to appear on the Twisted Tragedies podcast. Gaetini appeared on the YouTube stream for a little over 3 hours, with host Elise discussing topics related to Aiden Kearney's ongoing problems with the law, women, and his relationship with Karen Reed. The two laughed at Kearney's apparent falling out with Courtney Healy, as Kearney recently pointed out texts from Healy that revealed that she had hid Kearney's phone from police when he was in jail earlier in the year. Defending Gaetini's right to speak out against Kearney's constant accusations against her, the pair explained that at some point taking the so-called high road and not responding to Kearney only hurt Gaetini, as Kearney's influence stirred up people who are now publicly attacking her children. The pair went on to discuss how Kearney's actions may have significantly hurt Karen Reed's murder case, as his attempts to poison the jury and his over-the-top antics in supporting Reed have brought severe limits to the ability for Reed's true supporters to express their support for the alleged murderer. Elise from Twisted Tragedies predicted that Reed would not be able to present the third-party defense in her murder trial, as the defense did not do enough to establish evidence that others were the true murderers of victim John O'Keefe. Gaetini claimed Kearney's associate, Jess Mikado, was obsessed with her, and that Mikado set up Grant Smith Ellis for the protection order she sought and ultimately received against him in order to please Kearney. She also explained that despite her current problems with Smith Ellis, he did not deserve what happened with the protection order and was innocent of the charges made against him by Mikado. This is a developing news story. Goose eggs dominate Monday GoFundMe take. I write this in protest as my decision to end this column was overruled by some fictional nuns who have taken over the storyline for the new show on the YouTube channel. Monday was goose eggs across the board again. Fourth or fifth time in the last week, and no real reason for it. People don't have money to spend right now, and they're certainly not spending it on YouTube people who want to fund lawsuits that go nowhere. I know that the fictional nuns think that some of these people on this list are worth saving, but I assured them all is lost. Every day, more and more, my belief in that is reaffirmed as I write these at 3:30 a.m. Eastern. The world is doomed. Case in point, Michael Eline apparently went out of his way to promote Jose Chile de Castro's Legal Defense Fund crime scene tape illegal arrest fund on Monday. Word is he said it on his live stream in support of Chile. The result? 0.00. Zilch, nada, no gains, no losses, just nothing. Eline's reach has quickly decreased now that he has decided that De Castro is a dear supporter of the armed forces and wasn't known for saying a variation of G.I. Joe loser wannabes before discrediting both the police and the armed services. That's right, Elon hasn't researched his client. Otherwise, he probably would have questioned DeCastro's many calls to ban women from the armed services because a woman could never hold dominion over a man, or beat them in wrestling, or a fight, or outthink them, or out anything them because women are here to help repopulate the earth and not much else, according to Castro. I mean, a fine, upstanding supporter of all veterans wouldn't disqualify an entire gender's role in the military if he supports the troops and has done so much for them. Right, right, right. I'm phantom editorializing again in this column. But jeepers creepers, Michael Eline, you deserve to raise nothing if you can't even get past Chile de Castro's past statements 101. They can and will come back to haunt you, bite you in the ass, and somehow, with the luck you're showing right now, Michael Eline, get you put in the next jail cell over from him in the Clark County Detention Center. Oh, it probably will happen if you keep going down the road you're going. But that's an editorial statement on behalf of myself and not the Sisters of the Fellowship of the Blessed Traveling Pants who fund this fictional column. Flashback to May 28th, 2023. De Castro promises more legal action. My will be done or I'll sue you were the words of Jose Chile de Castro Saturday night as he was closing his impromptu live stream on his YouTube channel. The live stream, ending an incredibly slow news day, started with de Castro comparing what he called torture chairs between Chinese detainment chairs and a supposed American-style detainment chair. The YouTuber showcased the Chinese version of the chair as a very orderly process where a man was calmly detained in a sitting position with his arms bound as he was interrogated about his criticism of police on a social network. By contrast, the clip of the American detainment chair featured a chaotic blend of alleged corruption, nudity, and threat of tasing. De Castro put it to a vote, and his live chat found the American version wanting, deeming the American torture chair even worse than China's. Moving on to his traditional coverage of random, scantily clad young women taking an attitude with police, De Castro focused on a video featuring an 18-year-old in a crop top and short shorts who was pulled over by police for suspicion of driving while under the influence. The woman questioned her rights as she was being verbally detained and denied knowledge of Xanax tablets found in her driver's seat. De Castro made the case that someone as small and thin as the young woman should never be detained as they're not considered a risk, and he could easily take action against them if he needed to. De Castro complained as the woman became more and more agitated with police, ultimately resisting as they attempted to place her in the back of a police vehicle. The woman could be heard screaming at police as she was driven away. The second video on display featured an African-American man who was pulled over by a rookie police officer. After brief questioning, the officer said he could smell marijuana and a search of the man's vehicle was unsuccessful in finding the drug. The third video contained the May 9, 2023 incident in Illinois, where a routine stop to assist a broken-down vehicle turned into a fatal shooting, when the police found the driver had warrants and he resisted arrest. De Castro blamed police for the actions of the driver, who fought police when they tried to detain him for his warrant. The YouTuber stating that there should be an alternative method to handle those drivers who are found to have outstanding warrants. The subject of De Castro's warrant in Ironton, Ohio came up, and De Castro explained that he fled Ohio as he would have either still been in jail or dead if he did not do so. He asserted that he would prevail in his current federal civil rights lawsuit against the town of Ironton, and his warrant would then be quashed. De Castro brought up the rest of his lawsuits, both federal and state level, and said that he would be taking action and possibly filing a new lawsuit within the next 2 to 3 weeks if his legal maneuvering failed. De DeCastro takes win for Tuesday. Attorney Michael Eline's Monday fundraiser for Jose Chile DeCastro resulted in a win for DeCastro on Tuesday in the GoFundMe race for the crown. DeCastro received a single $25 donation to his lawyer fund only All Dollars Go to Lawyers campaign a day after Eline's fundraiser. While technically coming a day after said fundraiser, we're going to be kind and give credit to the single donation to Eline out of pity's sake. DeCastro's Legal Aid Fund, Donation Fund, Help People Fund also saw a single donation of $10 on Tuesday. It's unclear if this one was promoted anywhere, but the donation propelled DeCastro to an unstoppable win on Tuesday with a combined take of $35. No other auditors saw donations for Tuesday. As part of our tracking, we're currently investigating the status of Craig Hendry, who has a GoFundMe listed as part of our tracker. Hendry posted on his YouTube community page late last week that he had court tomorrow for multiple charges in Lake County, Indiana. He has since gone silent across all of his media channels. Searches of his Indiana public records show no hearings in any cases corresponding to the case he had listed, so it's unclear what is going on with Hendry or why he's gone into total media silence. His GoFundMe campaign last received a donation on April 28, 2024, and has not been promoted by the YouTuber in the month or so we've been monitoring the campaign. As always, we do have a GoFundMe of our own, located below in the scroll. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Chaos in Turtle World. After a weekend of turmoil that saw Kate Peter and Grant Smith Ellis exchanging vicious accusation and barbs on Twitter, the chaos seems to have spread to the defenders of Karen Read as Turtle Boy Aidan Kearney finds himself at the center of controversy. Kearney recently remarked that he could have taken a plea deal to hand authorities a victory in their case against Karen Read for the murder of John O'Keefe. Kearney stated that he didn't take the deal because he believed in both his own innocence and that of Read. The comments caused controversy as Kearney didn't deny flat-out rejecting the deal, and critics claimed that the comments weren't comments one would make if they were firmly convinced of the innocence of Karen Read. In more recent days, Kearney has found himself in conflict with Karen Read and Nick and Jenna Rocco, who had taken over duties as head of the so-called Free Karen Read movement last year, when Kearney was jailed for violating terms of his release on charges of felony witness intimidation. The Roccos have now distanced themselves from Kearney in light of his comments about Read and a dispute over a Facebook page. It has been reported that Kearney recently forced the Roccos out of a pro-Karen Read Facebook page they were running in order to rebrand it as a Turtle Boy-sponsored page. Kearney was reportedly jealous of the Roccos after Karen Read and Read's family distanced themselves from Kearney following the filing of criminal charges against him. Nick Rocco also replaced Kearney as a representative of Read in appearances on court TV to defend her. As the controversy has spread, Kearney has attempted to explain his comments about a possible plea deal as something he'd never do, as he fully believes in Karen Read. However, persistent rumors have Kearney preparing possible action against Read should she continue to shun his help. Kearney actively tweeted descriptions of John O'Keefe's adopted children's testimony on Tuesday, despite a court order preventing the use of computers or phones during their testimony. He later held a press conference to detail his thoughts about their testimony and the order. The YouTuber is due in court on May 30th, 2024 for another pretrial hearing in his ongoing efforts to have his ex-girlfriend Lindsay Gaiatini's protection order against him dropped. DeCastro to pay Bacon $4,500. As expected, Judge H.J. Ford III issued a correction to his recent ruling in favor of Michael Blue Bacon Paratini and Jose Chile DeCastro's ongoing California-based lawsuit against Paratini, David Team Skeptic Omo, Daniel Clement, and Kate Peter. DeCastro is suing the group for defamation and harassment in California's Superior Court in essentially a rehashing of his previously dismissed Massachusetts-based federal civil rights lawsuit against Peter and Josh Abrams. That case was dismissed in July of 2023. Abrams is not included in the new suit. The corrected ruling strikes the order for DeCastro to pay Blue Bacon's lawyer $4,500 by July 15, 2024, and replaced it with an order for DeCastro to pay Peratini the $4,500 directly within 20 days of the order. Judge Ford found that DeCastro improperly filed what he called a motion for sanctions, which was in fact a motion to compel further responses to DeCastro's request for production of documents as part of the discovery process. The judge found that DeCastro's motion was not supported by a required meet and confer declaration and failed to cite any authority that would allow him to rely on a verified memo of points and authorities instead of a meet and confer declaration. He also found that DeCastro failed to establish good cause for further responses, as the burden was on him to show relevance to the subject matter and specific facts to justify further discovery. As DeCastro's motion failed to provide a proper meet and confer declaration and failed to demonstrate even the most basic of good cause for further responses, Ford denied the motion and awarded sanctions in the amount of $4,500 to cover the 10 hours of legal fees at $4.50 an hour charged to Peratini by his attorney to respond to DeCastro's motion. Regan Benson gets surprise delivery? Regan Benson's non-scheduled Tuesday rant against homeless services in Denver was apparently interrupted in the best way possible on Tuesday, as Benson received news that her youngest son's wife may have delivered her new grandson. Benson started the live stream with a rant alongside a homeless man named Phil. Benson explained that Phil is the only survivor out of 3 men who she had housed at a hotel in 2022 to 2023. Ron and Jesse, who were housed with Phil, both died in 2023, and Benson showed off her memory urn necklace containing Jesse's ashes at the start of the broadcast. The activist for the homeless was upset that the nonprofit St. Francis Center, which provides mail service for the homeless, had very odd and inconsistent hours to access the mail. Benson claimed that she and Phil were just denied service at the mailing center at the facility, as it closed at 2 p.m. and they had arrived at 2:30 p.m. Benson was outraged that a supervisor had told them that she would be willing to go check Phil's mail for him at the expense of banning Phil from the facility for the next week. Phil was at the facility checking his mail for a copy of his birth certificate, which was express mailed to him last week but had not arrived at the center. The homeless man needed it in order to accept an apartment from the City of Denver's homeless rehousing program. The pair explained that the deadline for Phil to accept his apartment was on Wednesday, and he needed to have his birth certificate readily available to show to the city, or else the city would pass him over for housing. After completing her rant against the horribly run St. Francis Center, Benson drove Phil to get a new food access card from Denver's Department of Health and Human Services. Phil said he lost his card some time ago, and Benson was unsure if the city would provide him with a new card. While Benson was inside with Phil, her signal cut out, and when it returned, Benson explained that she had a missed call from her youngest son. While she had not yet returned the call, she indicated that it probably meant his wife had delivered her latest baby, who had been several days overdue for delivery. Benson ended the live stream on that happy note, indicating that she would return to the St. Francis Center on Wednesday in order to again help Phil after possibly visiting her new grandson. Flashback to May 29, 2023. DeCastro to eliminate police. Jose Chile DeCastro continued his recent verbal attacks on police Sunday night in a now-deleted live stream. DeCastro shared violent fantasies about attacking the police officers involved in his recent arrest in Las Vegas, indicating that he had no fear of the men and now proclaiming all law enforcement has to be deleted. DeCastro began his live stream by looking at a series of arrest videos in which he claimed that officers tortured or abused those individuals they were taking into custody. This led to DeCastro stating that he wanted to force a California policewoman into a cage fight like a man and have a canine officer who was involved in an incident that DeCastro was watching be mauled by dogs. The YouTuber's violent fantasies continued as he stated that he was not afraid of the officers who recently arrested him in Las Vegas and would attack them individually if he could find them in a situation outside of the, quote, rule of law, unquote. In perhaps a new career move, DeCastro openly stated that he was obsessed with the idea of opening a fight club where police officers would face members of the public to settle disputes for his entertainment. He then declared that when he obtained the governorship, he would defund and outlaw the police department and replace it with a department of rights protectors. Playing portions of a recent traffic stop that he was involved with, DeCastro criticized police for touching him after he ignored their warnings to stay inside his car. He claimed that officers should have known he was unarmed, even though he states he openly carries his firearm at all times and is well known by Las Vegas Metro police officers. Even more disturbing, DeCastro again shared his fantasies of a coming civil war, toying with the idea of leaving during the actual fighting in order to return as an authority figure after the war. It is unclear if DeCastro believes that the Civil War will come before or after his attempt to run for governor, but he assured his fandom that he would be ready to lead in either case. Long Island Audit takes Wednesday crown. In a mind-altering last-minute win, Sean Paul Long Island Audit Riaz took Wednesday's overall fundraising crown from Jose Chile DeCastro with a donation that put him past DeCastro's totals for the day. DeCastro had been leading for the day with a single $25 donation to his legal aid fund, Donation Fund Help People Fund. Riaz had a single donation to his Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption Fund of $20 that put him in second place, but was still behind DeCastro's tally for the day. In the darkest hour, a $10 donation came into Riaz's Unlawful Arrest and Constitutional Rights Fund, sealing the overall victory for Riaz with a $30 total tally for the day, edging out DeCastro's $25 tally by $5. Fans were in disbelief at Riaz's last-minute win, as were the fictional Sisters of the Fellowship of the Traveling Pants, who placed bets that DeCastro would win the day. While prevented from donating directly to the funding of the auditors, a significant amount of money has been exchanged in the background betting on their favorite auditors. In updates to yesterday's concerns, Craig Hendry resurfaced in response to a comment on his YouTube community page. While no explanation was given for his disappearance or his Phantom Court appearance, he did tell a supporter that it was okay to gloat about the Boston Celtics defeating the Indiana Pacers to advance to the NBA Finals, as Hendry was not in jail. Hendry has yet to otherwise update his situation. We'll continue to follow and update the story as news emerges. As always, we do have a GoFundMe of our own, located in the scroll below. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Louisiana cracks down on auditors. The Associated Press is reporting that Louisiana has joined Florida in enacting a law that would prevent members of the public from approaching within 25 feet of police officers who are engaged in the execution of their duties. The new law will go into effect on August 1st and was signed into law by Governor Jeffrey Landry on Tuesday. It would carry fines of up to $500, 60 days of jail time, or both for those who would approach police officers after being ordered to stop approaching or retreat. Filming is not prevented by the law, though critics have made it clear that filming would be much more difficult for police watchers, as the ability to pick up audio would be extremely limited from the 25-foot buffer zone around the officers. Proponents of the law argue that the buffer zone is needed in order to protect both the officers and those that they're interacting with. The 25-foot zone, while not official in most other states, The 25-foot zone, while not official in most other states, came up in Jose Chile de Castro's recent conviction of obstruction and interference in Las Vegas for a 2023 arrest. Officer Brandon Bork testified that he was trained to use an approximate distance of 25 feet as a guideline for safety of bystanders in traffic stops. DeCastro's direct approach of Bork and the driver endangered both, as DeCastro's erratic behavior and attitude posed a perceived danger. YouTuber Craig Hendry was also recently arrested in Indiana for similar charges. Hendry had purposely antagonized an officer about the ridiculousness of a 25-foot buffer zone and insisted the officer measure how far Hendry was standing away from the officer. Hendry was taken into custody when he was found to be standing 23 feet away from the officer instead of the required 25. Charges are pending in that case, with the next hearing in the case scheduled for June. Challenging the Florida and Louisiana law may become a goal for DeCastro once he is released from his current stint in the Clark County, Nevada Detention Center. The YouTuber had previously promised to challenge any law enforcing limits to filming, with a planned civil rights lawsuit to supplement his efforts. Wallace returns to the United States. Floyd Wallace's latest video on his YouTube channel saw him at a Dominican Republic airport waiting for a flight back to the United States and promising that his foreign-only channel would continue despite his presence in the U.S. Wallace has spent most of the past year in South America, wandering from country to country in an attempt to showcase the local culture, beauty, natural resources, and, of course, loose women. The stated goal of his YouTube channel has been to showcase how someone like Wallace, who has had difficulty betting American women, can thrive by leaving the United States and taking advantage of women in third world countries. His cult-like demand for donations before he'd even turn on his camera or speak on a live stream often hampered his viewership, but for a time resulted in donations coming from his viewers that helped him achieve his fundraising goals for each day. Wallace's recent failures to secure and showcase a never-ending supply of local women to his audience from both Colombia and the Dominican Republic may have exposed a major flaw in Wallace's pickup experience. His running up to random women and screaming, "Hey, you got Instagram? You got WhatsApp?" then running away from their response, failed to inspire his audience to send him more donations. His latest claims that he was catfished when he was unable to hold a conversation with a woman at a mall in the Dominican Republic may have been the final nail in the coffin for Wallace's status as an international stud. Even casual observers could see that the language barrier and Wallace's unease around women, focusing the camera on himself and addressing himself rather than the woman he had intended to bed, was a clear problem. He made no real attempts to learn Spanish, the primary language of the women he encountered over the last year, except for weak attempts to get his audience to pay for Spanish lessons that he seemed to indicate would help him seduce a female Spanish teacher. Wallace's return to America coincided with a missed court date in Oklahoma on Wednesday. Wallace was scheduled for a hearing on the misdemeanor docket in Norman, Oklahoma, for charges related to his August 18, 2023 arrest for obstructing a police officer. The YouTuber had previously commented that he could appear via Zoom call for this hearing, though no updates to the outcome of the hearing have been provided by the court's website as of press time. Trouble in Turtletown continues. Aiden Turtleboy Kearney faced more trouble on Wednesday as the extent of his apparent continued betrayal of Karen Reed emerged. Statements attributed to Kearney have been circulating that he would be approaching Massachusetts State Trooper Brian Tully with information on Karen Reed should he continue to have problems with Nick and Jenna Rocco. Kearney's recent statements have him admitting that he had been fed information by Karen Reed when he served as the leader of the Free Karen Reed movement in 2023. The statements were made in order to help Reed manipulate the public into taking her side as she was accused of murdering boyfriend John O'Keefe. The Roccos replaced Kearney as leaders of the movement he had established after Reed and Reed's family apparently cut ties with Kearney after Kearney was indicted on multiple witness intimidation charges related to Reed's case last year. Making his power known, Kearney was recently granted a press pass by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and has been able to attend Reed's trial as a member of the press, despite his public statements that he had intended to disrupt the jury and his threatening comments towards witnesses. In the 2 weeks since he received press credentials, Kearney has allegedly staged an incident with an associate that resulted in the elimination of reporter Grant Smith Ellis's ability to report at the courthouse due to a protection order received by that associate. Smith Ellis has been a frequent critic of the YouTuber. Kearney has also used his time reporting inside the courtroom to tweet insults directed at witnesses while they were on the stand, and most recently, he issued a bounty for footage of witness Colin Albert fighting after Albert testified in the case. The self-proclaimed award-winning journalist and journalism Jesus is scheduled for a hearing later today for charges of violating a protection order taken out against him by former girlfriend Lindsay Gaetini. This is a developing story. Flashback to May 30th, 2023, DeCastro's Memorial Day tribute to himself? On a day that most Americans were quietly gathering in remembrance of those who gave their lives in defense of the country, Jose Chile DeCastro released several videos highlighting his perceived mistreatment by police and the judicial system. The first of DeCastro's videos featured DeCastro and then sidekick Floyd Wallace walking around displays at the Las Vegas Police Department before his scheduled meeting with Internal Affairs. DeCastro objected to the display of the thin blue line symbol on a Nevada license plate on display at the entrance of the building. The woman working behind the front counter listened to his complaints, but told him they would not remove the license plate from display. DeCastro's second video featured an apparent recent traffic stop in Las Vegas, where DeCastro bragged about going through a traffic light that was turning from yellow to red. He was pulled over by police and exited his vehicle to confront them. When the police asked him to stay in one place and continued to herd him to that spot, DeCastro claimed they were attempting to torture him by placing hands on him. It is unclear from the video if DeCastro received a citation for running a red light, as the video ends with DeCastro being told that he was free to leave by the gathered police officers. The final video, released as Memorial Day was ending on the West Coast, concerned DeCastro's pending response to Google's motion to have their portion of his Massachusetts-based copyright case against Kate Peter, Josh Abrams, 50 John Doe YouTube creators, 20 John Doe YouTube workers, and YouTube itself either be dismissed or moved to the federal court in Santa Clara, California. Castro stated that YouTube should not be allowed to move the case to Santa Clara, as he was not allowed to have his case dismissed in order to refile it in California by Judge Allison D. Burroughs last fall. Burroughs had ruled in the fall of 2022 that DeCastro could not have his case dismissed at that time because Kate Peter and Josh Abrams had replied to his initial lawsuit with counterclaims before DeCastro made his motion to dismiss. DeCastro was intending to have the case dismissed so he could refile it in California. In response to this ruling, DeCastro amended his case to change the focus to copyright issues and then essentially refiled his original charges against Peter in California state-level court, dropping Abrams from the charges. DeCastro, addressing the current motion, indicated that YouTube was only a secondary party in the current version of the case and was only brought into the lawsuit as he claims they violated the Digital Millennium Copyright Act when they refused to take down any and all YouTube videos he says misused his copywritten material. The YouTuber stated that YouTube was insignificant to the lawsuit and ignored YouTube's own request to have the case dismissed completely, as DeCastro has made no actual claims against YouTube or provided examples of how YouTube allegedly caused him harm. As usual for recent videos by DeCastro, the video ended with a confusing statement. In his extended list of grievances, DeCastro stated that YouTube should be forced to write original motions against him and be denied the use of boilerplate filings. DeCastro, who is alleged to have copied motions in this lawsuit from other lawsuits he's found from Google searches, and allegedly relies on AI program ChatGPT to help him write his original motions, made the demand at the close of the video, and it is unclear if the judge in the case has the power to grant his demands. The new filing is expected to be released later today. De Castro attacks Zimmerman again in Thursday rant. Viewers of Jose Chili De Castro's Thursday rant got a mix of old rants and new claims as he again called Justice of the Peace and Zimmerman a police-loving corrupt judge who put him in jail for no apparent reason. De Castro's venting session was accompanied by a live premiere attended by under 100 people. When De Castro made a rallying cry of OTVO for his audience to respond to, less than 4 OTVOs came in response from an assembly of people lacking many of his regulars. The YouTuber touched on his recent transfer to the medium minimum section of the Clark County Detention Center and complained that jailers responded that it was a correct assignment for him after multiple notes passed to guards begging for a return to the minimum area. Describing the horrors of the medium minimum security barracks, De Castro claimed that he was in a constant 16 to 18-hour lockdown where he couldn't leave his bed. Armed only with the books he has amassed while in jail and a single bit of padding, De Castro claimed he has been in constant confinement in the new area, living in fear for his life at all times, which were exactly the same claims he made while he was in the minimum section of the facility. De Castro updated the status of his United States History Constitutional Law Scholar board game, claiming it was nothing like any game on the market. He also laid out plans for his De Castro's Box product, which would now use artificial intelligence to help inmates educate themselves while incarcerated. The YouTuber turned inmate again looked forward to his July appeals date and promised that he would take action against Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman and the corrupt Nevada court system once he was free from imprisonment. De Castro's appeal for his recent conviction is set to be heard on July 10th. The YouTuber indicated that if the appeal is denied, he will then take his appeal to the Nevada State Supreme Court. This is an ongoing story. Dollahide defendants demand dismissal. Enough seems to be enough as the remaining defendants in Jason Dollahide's ongoing quest for $250 million have asked for a complete dismissal of the case. Earlier in the month, Dollahide's lawyer agreed to drop all defendants from the case except for Dennis Dickens and a unit from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. It was in response to a direct order from the judge to show cause why Dollahide's claims should not be dismissed without prejudice for failure to prosecute. The filed response from Dollahide's team ignored the order completely, instead agreeing to release all defendants except Dickens and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol from the lawsuit. Dollahide's case was filed in August of 2022, but was technically dismissed in June of 2023 with an order by the judge for Dollahide to file leave to amend his complaint by July 24, 2023. Dollahide complied. The defendants replied to Dollahide's motion, and the case sat from August of last year until March of this year, when the judge granted the leave to file an amended complaint, as long as the complaint contained direct factual allegations about all of the named defendants, or simply omitted them. The April deadline came and went for Dollahide to file his amended complaint. Another order was issued, and Dollahide ignored that deadline as well. When he was granted one last chance to abide by the court's order, his attorney filed the above-mentioned reply, ignoring the order and essentially dismissing the rest of the defendants from the case. After all the delays, the defense are asking the court to drop the lawsuit, as Dollahide has failed to act on multiple orders from the court, and the case has essentially sat in limbo since August of 2022. Complicating things further is the fact that Dollahide has been in the Cleveland County, Oklahoma detention center since July of last year after being picked up on a combination of revoked warrants and new charges. Dollahide was recently convicted to both jail time and state prison for a number of these charges and faces trial for his remaining charges later this year with the possibility of even more jail time. It is also unclear whether Dollahide has the financial means to fund his attorney's attempts to write a brand new amended complaint. His primary financial backer, Jose Chili de Castro, is also in jail and unable to contact Dollahide or raise money for his lawsuit. With the 2-year anniversary of his filing fast approaching, and no sign that Dollahide or his attorney can follow basic instructions from the court to file the ordered amended complaint, it seems likely that the case will finally conclude in the near future. Turtle Boy faces another continuance. Aidan Turtle Boy Kearney's Thursday pretrial court appearance over charges that he violated an abuse protection order filed by ex-girlfriend Lindsay Gaetini apparently resulted in a continuance with a new pretrial hearing scheduled for July 11, 2024. Kearney had a press conference in front of 5 gathered fans after speaking with fanatic Tom CPU on the steps of the courthouse. In his statement, Kearney claimed that Gaetini was now being investigated for making a false police report. This was supposedly based on the fact that police did not pursue charges against Kearney made by Gaetini over an alleged domestic violence incident in December. The journalism Jesus also claimed that Gaetini was facing felony witness intimidation charges as her actions intimidated him. He also said that if he was facing felony witness intimidation charges and faced a lifetime in jail, others should face the same. It is unclear what Kearney was basing his information on, as the court record for the event reflects the following. Event resulted, pretrial hearing scheduled on May 30th, 2024, 9 a.m., has been held. No rulings have been made at the hearing, no indications of new charges were made, nothing more than a notation that the hearing was held and that the next hearing would be on July 11th. Based on that information, it would be easy to discount Kearney's claims as just that. However, he was able to get felony witness intimidation charges filed against rival Kate Peter this year. Peter is now facing the same type of felony witness intimidation charges that Kearney is facing trial for later this year, and it is likely he will attempt to file those same sort of charges against Gaetini. In other Kearney-related news, a statement attributed to Nick and Jenna Rocco indicated that while they were sorry for their recent dispute with Kearney over matters relating to the Free Karen Reed movement, the vague actions they took with an outside party were now out of their hands and would conclude on their own without their interference. It is unclear what the pair were referring to, but may indicate that the pair may be taking legal action against Kearney, who has leveled multiple charges against the couple for alleged illegal activities while serving as the leaders of the Free Karen Reed movement. Kearney has alleged that Reed illegally leaked documents to the Roccos in order for the Roccos to attempt to sway public opinion in her favor during the lead-up to the now ongoing murder trial. The award-winning journalist claimed it was true, as he alleged that Reed had utilized the same practice with him when he was in the role of the leader of the movement. With no signs that drama is dying down in Massachusetts in the near future, and the Karen Reed trial currently on hiatus until next week, more drama is expected to play out on Friday as the background players come into the spotlight and more dramatic events come to light. De Castro retains crown on Thursday. Jose Chili de Castro pulled off a decisive win over Sean Paul Long Island Audit's Rios by outdrawing his rival at a 9-1 ratio on Thursday. It may come as no surprise that de Castro won the day, as his fans are finally catching on to the minor promotion work done by de Castro's employees. Fans are now seeing his fundraising needs through a combination of a recent YouTube community post and Michael Eline's fundraiser that raised awareness to 2 of the 3 campaigns de Castro is running. De Castro's $90 take for Thursday was spread equally between his Lawyer Fund Only, All Dollars Go to Lawyers campaign, and his Legal Aid Fund, Donation Fund, Help People Fund, the 2 campaigns mentioned in the recent community post on his YouTube channel. Strangely, the campaign for Press with Rancor, a De Castro associate who De Castro signed a contract to raise $6,000 a month for his legal defense, was also mentioned in the community post, but has received no donations at all since the promotion. Garrett Press with Rancor Van Nett is a strange case. While we'd never pick on someone's speaking voice, Van Nett seems to have trouble speaking in a range where most adults can hear him. Van Nett is currently facing felony charges of interfering with a traffic stop, essentially the same sort of charges DeCastro was recently convicted of. He refused to back away to a safe distance from an officer who was involved in a traffic stop. Claiming a vast conspiracy against him, Van Nett accused the officer's family of influencing his prosecution. He stated on multiple occasions that generations of the family had some sort of vendetta against him. DeCastro seems to have some sort of soft spot for the man, going out of his way to appear with Van Nett at the Delta County, Michigan Board of Commissioners meeting, and for some reason, DeCastro chose to take on $48,000 in debt towards Van Nett's legal funding. Now that DeCastro is imprisoned, there have been no official updates to the status of Van Nett's legal defense. Since the $6,000 owed by DeCastro is more than his GoFundMes have been making in combined totals for the month, it is unlikely that he currently has the means to make the payments at this time. The monthly payment is a burden for sure, and the payment contract was taken out solely in DeCastro's name, so only time will tell if DeCastro honored his debts or abandoned his friend to focus on his own financial needs. Regan Benson's paranoia on display. Regan Benson allowed her paranoia to overshadow her actual work with the homeless on Tuesday, as she spent nearly 3 hours in a live stream berating Denver area homeless outreach programs, claiming that the police were going to kill her, and eventually reaching out to a homeless woman who was involved in a possible domestic violence situation. Benson began the stream by proclaiming that she would be live streaming all future attempts at homeless outreach, as she was paranoid that Denver Metro Police are now targeting her and that she would die on the streets at their hands. This started a pattern of allegations by Benson that the police were disrupting and displacing homeless in a lawless phase to entice violence by members of the homeless community. In Benson's theory, police were using the time until the June 6th runoff election to determine Denver's new mayor to provoke the homeless into violence that would justify the new mayor's crackdown on the homeless. Of the two candidates, Benson said that she met with both former Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce CEO Kelly Bra and former state senator Mike Johnston, and found that Johnston was the more appealing candidate. Benson singled out the fact that Bra was endorsed by the mayors and police departments in the Denver metro area as a detraction from voting in her favor. Benson would eventually turn her attention to a homeless woman named Lindsay. Lindsay lost the RV she was living in during a crackdown on illegally parked RVs last month. The homeless activist blamed Sergeant O'Neill, the Denver Metro Police Department, who arrested her last week for filming in a police station, for the incident, and went into a tirade about O'Neill's involvement with what she described as a hate group. That group, Citizens for a Safe and Clean Denver, is run by Craig Arfston, who Benson identified as a man she saw walking with O'Neill 2 weeks ago while approaching homeless people in Denver's District 3 area. The group advocates for the continuation of the camping ban within the city of Denver, which was recently upheld by 80% of the citizens of Denver in a recent election. Benson spun a web of conspiracy involving Arfston, claiming his group was doing more to hurt the homeless than help, and alleging that O'Neill was behind recent crackdowns on the homeless in Denver's District 3 area. Again, turning her attention to Lindsay, Benson briefly interacted with a representative of Denver's STAR program who was attempting to assist Lindsay. Benson ultimately interjected herself into the situation by offering to use her foundation's funds to put Lindsay up in a hotel. Benson's offer came with a dramatic caveat that she would only pay for the hotel if Lindsay agreed to go to the hotel without her current boyfriend. Benson stated that the boyfriend allegedly made threats against her in the past. Benson muted her microphone for an extended period while discussing these conditions, and ultimately ended the live stream by declaring that she would soon be back to pick up Lindsay. DeCastro wins again in Friday Showdown. It was another win for Jose Chile de Castro on Friday, as he again edged out gains by Sean Paul Long Island Audit Riaz to take the GoFundMe crown for the second straight day. While the fighting was vicious between the two, De Castro's legal aid fund, donation fund, Help People Fund edged out Riaz's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption Fund by amassing $30 to LIA's $10 in donations from rabid fans. While the overall scale of donations was down for De Castro's victory, his victory isn't something we'd be talking about a week ago. His fans are finally finding two of his GoFundMe URLs, but are they making a difference? De Castro's Lawyer Fund only, all donations go to Lawyers Fund, made a total of $145 for the month of May. De Castro's Legal Aid Fund, Donation Fund, Help People Fund made a total of $410 for the month of May. De Castro's Legal Defense Fund Crime Scene Tape Illegal Arrest Fund made $754 for the month of May. In total, De Castro's funding took in $1,309 for the month. In perspective, unless he terminated Press with Rancor's deal, he owes roughly $6,000 for his next installment for the month of June. He owes Michael Blue Bacon Paratini $4,500 within the next 14 days. He also owes Paratini $1,635 from a previous round of sanctions that we have no evidence that he paid. He has also hired a new attorney in Maryland to defend him against his upcoming June 17, 2022 criminal trial in charges related to his alleged harassment of Colin Project Constitution Campbell. He also hired a new criminal attorney in Las Vegas to handle his pretrial hearing on June 24, 2024 for his misdemeanor charges in the city of Las Vegas for obstruction. With only $1,309 coming in from his campaigns and nearly $12,000 in payments due right now, is his YouTube revenue alone enough to make a difference? This is one to watch. De Castro may win his upcoming appeal, but as we've previously discussed, will there be anything left for him when he gets out of jail? Freeman's 7th District case mostly dismissed. James Freeman suffered a near-fatal blow to his lawsuit against New Mexico's 7th District Court on Friday, as Judge Margaret Strickland dismissed the vast majority of his lawsuit. Freeman was barred from entering the Torrance County District Courthouse in New Mexico unless he had specific business with the court, and he was accompanied by a member of the Torrance County Sheriff's Office while in the building. After several protests and demonstrations and endless attempts at brigading by supporters of Freeman, that order was eventually extended to all court facilities within New Mexico's 7th District. A lawsuit was filed in the United States District Court for the District of New Mexico last year against 7th District judges and a handful of clerks who refused to serve Freeman. That case has lingered over a number of issues, including Freeman failing to properly serve the defendants and Freeman doing everything he could to avoid stating an actual claim against those defendants. Freeman did file 4 counts in the case, without ever stating a specific claim against the defendants. Count 1 was based on Freeman's claims that his First Amendment rights were violated by the court when it barred him from attending hearings in his capacity as a reporter. Count 2 was based on his claims that he was barred from attending those hearings in a retaliatory fashion based on his First Amendment viewpoints. Count 3 was based on a due process claim, essentially stating that the actions taken by the judges in the case were based on decisions made without giving him a chance to defend himself. Count 4 was a mishmash of the previous charges. In her decision, Strickland ordered that counts 1, 2, and 3 be dismissed with prejudice to the extent that they sought injunctive relief. They were also dismissed without prejudice to the extent that they sought prospective declaratory relief regarding the constitutionality of the order against Freeman, preventing him from going into court facilities without an escort. Count 4 was dismissed without prejudice due to the lack of subject matter jurisdiction. All the defendants except Chief Justice Mercedes Murphy were terminated from Freeman's lawsuit. Freeman now has 14 days to file a third amended complaint for prospective declaratory relief against Judge Murphy in her official capacity. This allowance came with the warning that it would more than likely be Freeman's last attempt to amend his complaint. The judge warned that care should be taken that he corrects the deficiencies from previous versions of the complaint, since this would be his last chance at the apple. As expected, Freeman has already notified the court that he's appealing Judge Strickland's decision to the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. We will continue to provide updates to the case as we receive them. Wallace faces life in America. Floyd Wallace made his triumphant return to America this week and ran smack into a dose of reality as the country has changed in the years since he's actually lived here. The YouTuber complained about inflation in his first couple of live streams since returning to Houston last week. He seemed to have trouble reconciling the fact that things were a lot less expensive in the third world countries he has lived in over the past year. He also pondered his future. He's a black man living in America with no friends or support system in Texas. He's pushing 30, he has a felony on his record, and he still wants to travel rather than settling down with a job. Wallace doesn't have transportation at this time, as he said his old car was involved in an accident with a semi last year and was totaled. Complaining bitterly about inflated ride-sharing prices, Wallace naturally embarked on a crowdfunding campaign to earn enough money to buy a cheap car from Facebook Marketplace. Of course, no one is pitching in on the level he expected, so he's ranting at his viewers again. His multiple videos on Thursday and Friday saw him expressing his concern that none of his viewers would help to fund his quest for $750 to put towards buying a car off of Facebook Marketplace. Adding to Wallace's problems comes a new update to his Oklahoma criminal case. Wallace faces criminal charges of obstructing a police officer from an August 2023 arrest in Norman, Oklahoma. On that day, Wallace had live-streamed while he prowled around the parking lot of a police station in Norman, the video of which was later restreamed on Jose Chili de Castro's channel. When approached by police, Wallace started screaming orders at them and was eventually taken into custody for obstruction. De Castro then held an emergency fundraiser for Wallace's bond, which was raised and saw Wallace released hours later. Upon his release after being bailed out by De Castro, he returned to the police parking lot to confront police and then failed in his attempt to file a complaint against the officers who arrested him. That case lingered in the Oklahoma court system for the past year until Friday when jury selection was scheduled for August 14, 2024. In a weird development, Wallace's court date coincides with Jason Dollahide's jury selection in front of the same judge in Oklahoma. Wallace had been accused by Dollahide's wife Heather of inappropriate contact last year, before Jose de Castro allegedly paid her to drop potential charges against Wallace. Flashback to June 1st, 2023. De Castro doubles down on false information. Jose Chile de Castro's latest public meltdown left even his most ardent fans questioning his sanity on Wednesday. De Castro doubled down on an incorrect belief about federal employees and the display of visible identification on their uniforms. An agitated De Castro held a live stream outside of the federal building in Las Vegas on Wednesday. He explained that he had been in the building in order to pay the fees associated with Floyd Wallace's lawsuit, which he previously had crowdfunded for on behalf of Wallace on his Delete Laws YouTube channel, but had never paid. De Castro explained that 3 weeks ago, when he was filing his own lawsuit against the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, U.S. Marshals working at the building refused to identify themselves in violation of H.R. 7711, a law he claimed that was passed in 2020 that required all federal law enforcement agents to display visible identification at all times. When De Castro returned to the building to file Wallace's lawsuit, he claimed he was confronted by U.S. Marshals, who again refused to identify themselves and expressed concern because the flip-flops he was wearing contained a bottle opener in their soles, which was considered a weapon. The Marshals allegedly threatened him with ejection from the building due to the bottle opener and escorted him to the clerk of the court's office in order to file his lawsuit. De Castro claimed that in the commotion, the clerk initially forgot to stamp his paperwork and then never charged his debit card for the filing fees. De Castro claimed he did not know that the filing fee had not been paid until he received an email from the clerk reminding him that payment was due. His Wednesday visit to the federal building was an attempt to pay Wallace's outstanding fees. The self-proclaimed civil rights activist claimed he was once again accosted by U.S. Marshals as he entered the building. The marshals again flagged his flip-flops for containing the bottle opener. When he demanded their credentials, they again refused to identify, even though he cited H.R. 7711 as the law of the land. When he went to the U.S. Marshal's office in order to make a complaint, the supervisor refused to identify himself with name and badge number. DeCastro again stated that they were clearly in violation of H.R. 7711, and this would give him grounds to sue them for ignoring the law. As DeCastro stood outside the building, ranting that he was going to sue the gang of marshals as they ignored the rule of law, his fans began to give him troubling news in the live-streamed side chat. H.R. 7711 was introduced to the House of Representatives in 2020, but never made it out of committee. It was never the law of the land, and DeCastro was wrong. Apparently incensed by the news, DeCastro failed to properly shut down the live stream, and fans who arrived late were unable to access the stream for over 30 minutes. During that time, many questioned in the live stream side chat, which remained open due to the improper closure, why DeCastro contended that H.R. 7711 was in fact federal law, when clearly it was online and everyone could read that it was not the law. DeCastro's reaction was to respond to comments on the YouTube video with denials that he was wrong, and to claim that while H.R. 7711 didn't pass, it was later made into law when it was included as part of H.R. 6395, the National Defense Authorization Act. DeCastro was partially correct, as part of the law was passed due to actions of federal officers responding to civil uprisings in 2020. In multiple cases, incognito federal officers refused to identify themselves nor their government agencies when arresting protesters. The law states that the identification must be on display in a time of civil disturbance, and does not specify that federal officers must display identification during the course of their day-to-day activities, nor must they verbally identify themselves when asked. While DeCastro may claim that he was protesting the actions of the U.S. Marshals for refusing to identify himself, While DeCastro may claim that he was protesting the actions of the U.S. Marshals for refusing to identify themselves, his protest did not come during a time of civil disturbance. It is unclear if DeCastro was able to pay Wallace's filing fees. Wallace's case listing a court listener has not been updated with the payment status as of press time. Well, folks, yeah, I unmuted myself. Wow. Okay, remember, folks, our Karen Reed murder trial coverage is back this week as the trial is in session Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. Our coverage starts at 8:55 a.m. Eastern every day we're in session. Because there's a possibility that Thursday will be an extended day in the trial instead of a half day, our Thursday night all-star panel is moving to Tuesday for this week only. That's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. where it counts, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific. Remember, if you have show suggestions, please put them over in the new show suggestions area on our Discord. The link is going in chat in about a second. Also, if you'd like to donate to any of our funding, since we're not monetized, please follow the scroll below and show some love or cash or lovely cash or whatever you want to do. Don't make me have pants past the collection plate because somebody keeps putting their car keys in it. I don't want to know. No car keys in the collection plate. Please. On that note, see you tomorrow for our Karen Reed murder coverage, followed by our award-winning newscast, our award-dreaming newscast right back here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. where it counts, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific. Be here or Pope's coming to your house for a week. On that note, folks, I'll see you tomorrow.